Hi, Brett.
Hi.
Thank you so much for coming onto this call and having this conversation with me. I'm so excited to have you here.
I am excited to be here and see your face.
Okay, awesome. So I'm going to have you kind of share your story, but for those of you who are listening and watching, this is Brett Dunevant, and we met probably back in like 2012, 2013, when we were both training to be bar instructors here in Richmond. And if anyone has gone through like a training experience like that, I kind of equate it to like hazing and pledging in a fraternity. Like you get pretty quick, pretty fast. And so much so that, I would definitely say you're one of my best friends and you were a bridesmaid at my wedding. And, you've been a special person in my life. So it's just so great that even though you're afar, that we still stay connected. And we share a lot of common things with the bar teaching and your current studio ownership, my former studio ownership, but let's get into it. So if you could just introduce yourself and kind of tell your story and how you even got to where you are today.
Yeah. So excited to be talking with you. It's crazy to think that God, this is where we are now, and that bar is actually like what brought us together. Like
I
without
know.
bar, I may have never met you.
I know.
So that's one really cool thing. But kind of a little bit of background on me. So I'm in Charleston now, and I was actually born in Charleston, but grew up in Lynchburg, Virginia. Went to college at JMU, and then actually came back to Charleston for a year to kind of party it up after college, and then ended up in Richmond, and lived in Richmond for like 5 or 6 years, I guess. But I grew up dancing my entire life. I danced through college, and then after school, I gave it up. I wasn't dancing anymore. I never really danced like competitively or professionally. It was just one of my favorite things, and a big passion of mine. And so when I was in Richmond, a friend of mine had asked me if I'd ever heard of barre. And so I looked it up and checked out the local studio that we both went to. And I remember taking my very first class and being like, what the heck? Like, this is not dance. This is hard AF. Like, why am I shaking like crazy?
You
And
feel like a baby deer that's like just being born. Like you
yeah,
can't find your legs.
really do. And I just remember like going home and being like, do I get the new client special? Like, am I going to be able to put myself through this? And then I did. And within like a few classes, I became totally addicted, just completely addicted. And then the day decided to audition to be an instructor, which is when I first met you. That was crazy. Gosh, remember we were going back and forth for like 2 weeks. Like, have you heard yet?
I know. And it's so funny. I feel like I was such a different person back then, even, and just like the whole like lack of confidence issue. But anyway, that's a whole other story for a different day. Keep going.
You've come a really, really long way, confidence wise with all that. But yeah, so we both made it through and trained, and I just fell more and more in love with teaching and the whole idea of barre, and started helping like manage the studio a little bit. And then I want to say in like 2014, we came to Charleston on like a family vacation, which we hadn't done in years. And I went to a few barre classes while I was in Charleston and just wasn't like super impressed with what I took. And when we got back to Virginia, Brandon, my husband, was like, why don't we open up a barre studio in Charleston? And I was like, come again? Like, are you really being serious about this? Because Charleston is my favorite place in the world, and I would be doing my favorite thing in the world. But it would also mean just like packing up and leaving all of my friends in Virginia and my family in Virginia. But after a lot, we decided to take the leap and opened up a studio in Mount Pleasant. My studio is called Barre. And that was in like 2016 is when we actually opened the doors. So my first studio has been open for 4 years. In May, we hit our 4-year anniversary. And then
congratulations.
Thanks. And then a couple years down the road, we opened up a second studio in downtown Charleston. So we're at the 2-year mark with that studio, and just kind of living the dream. Weird times right now, but it's just been one of the most amazing decisions that we've ever made. Something that like, kind of like what you were saying before, I wasn't sure, like I definitely did not have the confidence that I could build my own business when the idea first came up. And it's just crazy to think like where I am in life now, those years down the road. So it's been awesome. And I am about to go through another like major life change, being 8 months pregnant. Yeah, the Barre
For
studio.
people who are watching, you can't tell, but she's 8 months pregnant. So just FYI.
Yeah. So, you know, the Barre studio has been my baby over the past few years, and now we're about to have a real baby. So things are going to be changing, and it'll all be great, but it'll be different.
Yeah. And I think what probably this experience with the studio ownership has probably taught you in your first baby is like you can adapt and be flexible and handle anything that comes your way. And we're going to get into all of that, but there's so much in your story that I want to unpack. And I want to kind of go back to when you initially discovered barre and kind of your fitness regime before that discovery. What did that look like?
Non-existent.
Yeah. So I know you, so I know that, but I just wanted to I'm going to make a larger point.
You know too much about me. Some things could really come out. Yeah. So the only like physical exercise that I really ever did was dance. And like I said, after college, I wasn't dancing. I graduated in 2008. So 2008 to 2012, I wasn't doing a whole lot of physical exercise. So like, I've never been somebody that has had like issues with, and luckily I haven't ever had issues with like weight or any of that. I mean, if you look back in pictures in college, I definitely was not looking great, but I wasn't
everybody.
healthy. Yeah, I just wasn't, I wasn't physically fit, and I wasn't healthy, like whether you could see it on the outside or not. I think I belonged to a gym, but I didn't go to it, you know?
Yeah.
And my thing was that I didn't want, like, I was not motivated to make myself go to work out on a treadmill or lift weights or any of that. I discovered that I needed to be in like a group fitness class with an instructor and with people around me to motivate me to really get moving and stick with something that I really enjoyed. So yeah, before I was not doing a whole lot.
Yeah. And I mean, I think that that's really important for people to understand. And I think even if people are physically active, like a lot of the times it's almost something that feels very forced, or if you aren't as physically active as you'd want to be, there's a lot of like guilt and shame around not, especially with the mentality around wellness and how important exercise is, not only for health, but longevity and things like that. But I think what's really important is that exercise, or what I now like to call more movement, just like moving your body every day. I mean, it's so different for everybody. And when you find that form of movement that aligns with you and that clicks with you, like it doesn't feel like something that you have to be like, that you have to like drag yourself to, right? Like, as you said, you use the word addicted, like it was something that you just felt like was fun and that you caught on to really fast and just like wanted to go.
Yeah. And I think like these days there are so many like boutique studios and different forms of exercise that are offered. And there's something that will work for everybody. And like you said, it does not have to be like a vigorous, high impact, like sweat your butt off thing.
Right.
Like just some form of movement is just so good for you physically, mentally, the whole shebang. And, you know, barre might not be what works for everybody or even what works for their body. But I feel like that there is something out there for each individual.
Yeah. And I think what's so great about barre is that it forces you into your body, right? And so much so to the point, and a lot of the times like yoga can be like this for people, but so much so to the point that you're in your body and you can't really think about anything else. And I feel as if not only is that physically empowering, but it's also very mentally empowering. Not only because it grounds you down in your body, but also because as you continue to do barre, you start to realize that you're able to do things in one class that you weren't able to do before. And that can be really motivating in and of itself.
For sure. And that's what I tell my clients that like come in for their first class and are completely new to barre. Similar to how, like I was saying, after my very first class, I felt defeated. And I hate that people like just feel defeated after their first class because it was so hard. It's something that like it should be challenging. It's not supposed to be easy. And I feel like people just need to like, no matter what it is, give it a few tries and give it a chance. And then you'll start to like really understand like what the movements are, and just kind of get into that routine. Because jumping into something new, you're not going to be perfect at it. And it takes time to build strength. I tell people all the time, like, it's never going to get easier. You're just going to get better at it. And you'll be able to push yourself like a little bit harder every single day, whether it's like from day one, maybe you're on your knees in planks, and day 10, you'll start to feel that strength like grow little by little. And you're up holding a full plank for a good 2 minutes or 3 minutes, you know, however long. So yeah, I just never want people to feel defeated after that first class and just, you know, give up on anything.
Right. And I feel as if, I mean, you do such a good job of encouraging and motivating, and the environment you created, which I definitely want to get into in a little bit, is just so community focused and so welcoming that I would like to think that, you know, if someone's just starting out, that they would feel compelled to come back and try and work on that strength, because it is something that, you know, you walk in for your first class and you're like, what was that? What just happened? Like, I didn't know I had muscles there. And so I think that it can just be something, and like you said, doing a new form of exercise can be intimidating in and of itself, but it's something that, you know, you just keep learning something new with every class.
Yeah.
So I want to go back because I think that what you said when you and Brandon were talking about opening up a studio in Charleston, and I guess I don't think I realized that idea came first before deciding to move there. Like, I think I thought that y'all were moving there.
Oh.
So, so I was gonna ask, like, what was that moment and like why Charleston? But now it's very apparent that that idea was like came in a package deal. But you mentioned that in deciding to make that big change, you felt intimidated or you had like a lack of confidence. So explain to me that process, from when you decided to open a studio to when the doors actually opened. Like, how was that journey? Like, what were the challenges and what kind of things did you have to say to yourself to kind of keep going?
Yeah. Yeah, because the beginning of the journey, it's scary. Just like I said, like starting something new is
Mm-hmm.
kind of terrifying.
Yeah.
Brandon was like a huge part of keeping me going and motivated and kind of really pushing me to gain the confidence that it was something that that we could do together.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was a lot of back and forth when we were still in Richmond. Like, are we going to do this? Do we stay in Richmond? And I remember like the day, the day that we decided this is a go. We went to, the Galley. Is that still around? The bar that was like near my house. I think that's what it was called.
I
I
don't
don't know,
think
but we
so.
went to this local bar and Brandon
Uh-huh.
was like, okay, like we're cheersing right now our beers and
Yeah.
like
So you
it's
made your final life decision while intoxicated.
over a cheer. Well, we
Okay.
weren't drunk.
I'm just kidding. I'm kidding. Not very healthified of
I
me.
mean, we could
I'm
have been. But of course, yes, with the
Yeah.
cheers, with the beer in hand. Yeah, we were like, cheers, let's do it. And that's when we said we're not going to go back and forth any longer. Like, here's the final decision. We're going to make the move to Charleston. He is very like business oriented and
Mm-hmm.
knowledgeable with stuff like that. So he is a major part of the business, kind of in the background of things. He does not come to class. Like, he doesn't really show his face ever at the studio. But he did our business plan, and he, like I said, just really kept me going and kept my confidence up, and just pushed us to move forward. So, and then of course, like, he had to find a job too. We were not moving to Charleston and trying to open up a studio like without
Yeah.
him having a job. So that's also when we decided like, okay, we can do this. So we moved to Charleston, and it was about a year, I believe, of just building out the studio, and business planning, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And you were like a huge part of
Yeah.
that too, because you were kind of, we were going through it together.
Yeah.
And so just also having like you, even though you were in Virginia and I was now in Charleston, I feel like I kind of had you by my side and we could bounce ideas off of each other. And that helped a lot. So like, I'm so grateful for you and everything
Aw.
that you did for me as like we began to build a bar studio.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, thank you. And yeah. And for those of you who are listening, you might not know, I formerly did own a bar studio myself, but I think um, contrast, juxtaposition in the flesh, like it was Brett's passion and heart and purpose on this earth, and it wasn't mine. Gratified is that for me. So I think that kind of like shows that sometimes you can even get into something or start something, and if you're good at listening to your intuition about what's right for you, then you either stay the course or you pivot. So but yeah, that was fun to be able to kind of like have each other during that process.
I definitely miss you on that part of things, but I'm
Oh,
so, just like you were saying, like, I feel like being passionate about something is not like what you do, but how you do it and how you
right.
feel about doing it. So like,
Yeah.
you were great at owning a bar studio and bar, but that wasn't like what brought you joy. And now like you're genius at what you're doing now and happy doing it. And like, it's, so it's so cool to see that like you've, you know, found your thing.
No, well, thank you. And I mean, hats off to you because, you know, I had a little bit of a unique scenario where when I started my studio, we kind of had a client base and people knew of it was a easier transition where you had to go into a whole new place, build a client base, spread awareness for your business. So, you know, I kind of want to talk about that a little bit because like I said earlier, I think community building has been such a cornerstone of Bar South, and you do a beautiful job of it. And even when I like read positive reviews for your studio, like that's always the one thing people say is it's so welcoming, this such a wonderful community. So talk to me a little bit about community building and why that's so important to you and how you go about cultivating that.
Yeah. So kind of like how you touched on it before, when somebody walks into the studio, like the first thing that I want them to feel is comfortable and welcomed. How our studio is laid out is we don't have, and you know this, but we don't have a lobby that you walk into. The desk is in the actual studio space. So that's actually really helpful because the instructor manages the desk and the clients are at their mat, but we get to have conversation with them and like quickly become friends with them. So part of like training, and I train my own instructors, part of that training is, you know, learning to become or just to be friendly and welcoming, and not just standing behind the desk in silence. Like you want people to walk in, because like we said before, it's scary walking into something brand new. I know how that is myself. It's not a good feeling. And it makes a huge difference, like walking into a smiling face, and just somebody that's like really friendly. So yeah, that was one of the things that was a little bit scary for me going back, is coming to Charleston. I didn't know really anybody here. How are we going to build a community? And it was all at the beginning, just word of mouth. Like we didn't really do any paid advertising. We used, I mean, social media is huge. So of course we built like a following on Instagram and Facebook and stuff like that. And I even used Craigslist to find my first group of instructors.
Wow. I think I remember you telling me that.
Yeah, I just didn't have really, like, I didn't have enough of a following on social media yet that I put up an ad on Craigslist. I've never done that again, but that's just how the first round of auditions started. And then from there, I hired, I think, 4 or 5 girls, and then they were able to kind of spread the word. And it wasn't until later that we started doing like paid ads on social media and stuff like that. So it's still amazing to me how quickly word spread. And you don't start out, I remember thinking like, okay, we're going to start out with like a full class of 25 people. And it's probably half that, you know? So once people start getting into the studio, then they can tell their friends, and you've got all these specials going on and, you know, friend deals and all of that. So it just spreads. But yeah, one of the main things for me is that people feel comfortable and good about themselves and not judged. And I don't ever want it to feel cliquey or like cultish. And so it's kind of just like a little family that we've built. And it's fun to bring new people in and have new faces walk in the door.
Yeah. And I think that's such a, you could just it's such a difference with your studio versus other studios that I'm aware of, and just it's like a breath of fresh air, and the fact of just the culture, not only from the aesthetics of the studio itself, but just the culture that you've created. And I think that's the beautiful thing about being an independent studio, is that it is so personable, and like you're the face of it, and your instructors are a big part of the family, and the clients are a big part of the family. So I think what you've done is so amazing. So talk to me how it was with opening a second studio with one under your belt, and how that differed from just opening your first.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely easier because we already had a client base. I wouldn't say it was easy, but we had learned of this development that was going up in the downtown area, pretty close to where we were living at the time, and thought it would be a great opportunity to jump on. So I think we started talking to them not even a year into our Mount Pleasant studio. But it was a huge development that needed to be built and all that. So it took time. And the demographic downtown is very different from Mount Pleasant. So we knew that we hoped that we would be gaining like a whole new client base when it came to opening up the downtown studio, which we did. And so it's a very similar aesthetic. The studio's like a little bit smaller than our Mount Pleasant studio space, but we do the exact same like forms of classes. It's cool to see the difference in the clientele. And most people, if they take downtown, they usually stick with that downtown studio. And if they normally take in Mount Pleasant, they stick in Mount Pleasant, which is kind of what we wanted. And they're free to bounce back and forth, and some people do based on like where they work and stuff like that. But it was a relatively quick process. Like once we signed the contract, gosh, I want to say that we were definitely open in under a year. And it was nice because I was set. Like I knew what kind of equipment we needed. I knew we already had all of the playlists prepared and choreography. And I did have to hire and train a couple of more instructors. But that's just been part of the process throughout the past 4 years. And it's fun. I mean, it's a lot of work hiring and training, because training can take 4 to 6 months, depending on how quickly they're progressing. But it's part of the process, and I actually really enjoy it. So that's kind of how it went with the downtown studio.
So with just all of that going on, and pregnancy aside, I want to get into that, but pre-pregnancy and being this business owner and teaching like hundreds of classes a week, or however many you teach. I mean, you're like a Wonder Woman. Talk to me about like self-care and like how you try and like carve out time for yourself, and what like nutrition looks like for you in order to
I'm afraid that was going to be a question.
I know, it's going to.
Well, it's funny.
I mean, that's the wonderful thing about this, is that it's like, it's authentic. So, I mean, I love hearing all types of stories with self-care and everything like that. So just.
Yeah. And I know you don't judge me on my eating habits. Yes, you do.
I need to get you some more bars.
I know. I really do. I was going to say, I love putting those bars in my smoothies. So and I really want to try the chocolate ones.
And a new mom told me they're actually really great for breastfeeding, because they encourage milk supply.
Okay.
Which I need to talk a little bit more about.
I don't know anything about that, but there are like lactation cookies and stuff like that. And I was like,
brewer's yeast.
Sarah could do like lactation bars or something, but they already have the properties. So that's cool.
Yeah.
I'll get on it. Anyway, well, so self-care and my nutrition. Before pregnancy, the great thing about like and I'm not teaching hundreds of classes a week. I usually teach like 8 classes a week. So it's like 2 a day. And I try to give myself weekends off. Here and there, I'll teach like a private class or I'll teach a weekend. But I try to give myself the weekends to kind of decompress, and I'm never not working. But like we've said before, like if you enjoy your job, it's fine. Like it doesn't really feel like work. So the great thing is like if I'm not in the studio teaching, then I can be home and I can work from home. It's not like a 9-to-5 job, like you're kind of on call 24/7.
Right.
But
kind of like motherhood.
Yeah. And it's really been like, I enjoy that. So, but the way that I normally kind of decompress is I still do enjoy taking classes for myself. So if I'm not teaching, before I was pregnant, I liked to take like 4 classes a week if I could. Awesome. And then at the end of the night, I liked to come home and enjoy myself 1 or 2 glasses of wine.
Yep.
And just sit on the couch and watch like Real Housewives.
That's awesome.
That's like, that's the way for me to kind of settle down from work in the evenings. And the other thing that I got into, this is really interesting, and I'd be interested to know like what you think about this, but I know like I had a conversation with you before. I honestly, my entire life did not think that I could get pregnant. I just kind of got used to the idea that like we were not going to have a kid. And I started yoga in January of this year. And we were also doing dry January. So like no alcohol. I added yoga to my routine. We were doing that challenge. I forgot about that. Remember? We were
we were doing it together.
Yeah. And I was also like taking barre every day. So you would think that that would be almost too much, doing like barre and yoga like every day during the month of January. In addition, we were doing what Brandon likes to call the slow carb diet. He follows Tim Ferriss, the podcaster.
Yeah, I know Tim Ferriss.
Loves him.
Yeah.
So Brandon likes to do the slow carb diet, which is basically low carbs, and then you get a cheat day once a week. So it was kind of a lot in January. Yoga, barre, teaching, slow carb diet, dry January. Like that sucks. A lot.
Y'all were just on this like healthified kick.
We really were. And then we went to Jamaica the first week of February, kind of to celebrate like getting through that like crazy January challenge that we were doing.
So the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was all inclusive, like lots of cool drinks. And 2 weeks later, I found out I was pregnant. And I seriously believe that all of that stuff that I was doing in January just kind of cleansed my body. And I really think that that's part of the reason that I was able to get pregnant. And
I mean, physiologically, I don't have a ton of insight there. I think, energetically, yoga to me has, changed my life. I know we've talked about that before, but, and I'm sure just doing both of those things together, both barre and yoga, like it probably just, it's going to sound woo-woo, and there's no science-based evidence of this at all whatsoever, but I mean, maybe it just like kind of like opened you up, like there's a lot of like opening in yoga, and and I just remember talking to you during that month because I was so excited you were getting into it because I was just like a friend to like, do this with me. But it was just like, I don't know, I could tell that there was like a shift and a change like happening in you. And I don't know. So you never know. You never know it
Yeah.
could have been a culmination of all of those things. But
Yeah. I mean, I felt really good. It was like, the best that I've felt in a long time. So I do think it was like a combination. And I don't know, we're having this little miracle
love
baby.
it.
But also back to pre-pregnancy right now, girl, my diet is like carb central. It started at the beginning. When you're just like feeling yucky and the only thing that helps is like bagels and bread.
Yeah.
It helps with like the nausea, and
Yeah.
it just kind of stuck for the next 7 months or whatever. So right now I'm not doing great with my diet, but prior to that, I was never one growing up that like really ate breakfast anyway.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I'm not super knowledgeable on, and I know that you've done like a lot of like talks and articles and stuff like that on intermittent fasting, but I kind of found myself intermittent fasting prior to pregnancy. And I would usually like break the fast with a smoothie. So I would do a smoothie for lunch, and then I would eat pretty much like, well, not whatever for dinner. A lot of times it would be like meat and vegetables.
Yeah, like real food based.
Yeah. But I also love going out to dinner. So like on the weekends, I, would treat myself. So I definitely had like a much healthier diet prior to pregnancy and tried to stay aware of what was going in my body, which I should probably be doing right now. And I do. It's not like I'm eating like fast food right now.
Right.
But a lot more sugar. Like I was never a big sweets person before. And come baby, like I love dessert.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and obviously I've never been pregnant, so I can't know, but nor like, I think the most important thing for any woman who is pregnant when it comes to your nutrition is just be without judgment, because I'm sure it's just such a different time and your body's going through all of these all of these changes. So I think, it's probably just, like you said, like you're dealing with nausea, and like certain foods will make you feel really great and certain foods will make you want to gag or whatever. There's like the aversions. And so no, but I mean, I think, it's just as long as like you're aware and you're conscious and, you're making the best decisions that you feel like you can make given what you have where you are, then I think that, that's really what matters at the end of the day. But I think just as long as you just, don't judge yourself and, you do you. I mean, I think a lot of people.
Yeah. I feel like during pregnancy, you just have to kind of like give yourself a little bit of grace and like give yourself a break and, hope that it's not too hard to get back on track. But I might need your guidance.
Well, you know where to find me. Okay, I want to shift gears a little bit because obviously 2020 has brought its challenges, especially for studio owners and that which is COVID. So talk a little bit about what that experience was like. And I mean, I know like hearing that you were pregnant, and I was just like, oh, like to have a silver lining of anything around this, it's probably that you were in your first trimester and second trimester, and that you didn't have to be teaching 2 times a day, and you were kind of forced to slow down and stay home and what have you. So just talk to us a little bit about what that was like and the emotions you were experiencing and all the things.
Yeah. No, you're spot on with that. God. Yeah. 2020.
Let's just all do like a big,
Yeah. God, COVID sucks. Um, 2020, everybody's, like 2020 go away. I know it's going to be like the best year ever because I'm having our little girl, but it's also like the craziest year ever. So backing up to February, we spent so much money in February. I had no idea what COVID was really at this point. It hadn't blown up yet. So we went to Jamaica. We bought a new car. We had a huge surgery for my dog with cancer that we had to pay for. And then we found out that we were pregnant. And then 2 weeks later, we were shut down. And just like F, like, oh my God, we just like did all of that in February, and now we've closed our doors and we're pregnant. And it just makes you like think on your feet fast. Like things had to pivot and change really, really quickly. How do we keep the business going? Luckily, like being a barre studio, we were able to turn around and go with the online option. So I think that our last in studio class was March 17th, and by like the 18th or 19th, we were already doing online only.
Wow.
I didn't even know what Zoom was on March 17th. Like I had never heard of Zoom in my life. And that's the platform that we used and have continued to use for our online classes. Like you said, it ended up being somewhat of a good thing because that is exactly like when I was not feeling well. I don't know if I would have been able to like get up and be active at even 9 a.m. I'm definitely not active at 6 a.m. I have other people that teach that time. Always have my entire life. But yeah, I just wasn't feeling well. So I did get lucky in that sense that how long were we like sheltered in place? 2.5 months. I think that we were probably closed. It's probably similar to you guys in Richmond. Things.
Yeah, I think y'all went through your reopening phase a little bit sooner than we did.
Yeah, I think we did too. South Carolina's handled it a little bit crazily. But yeah, it was scary. And just so much unknown. I mean, there's still so much unknown, but at that point we were like, okay, we can deal with this for like 3 months. Like we can still make it for 3 months. And then surely things are going to get back to normal, right? And they haven't.
We were thinking 3 weeks back then. I mean, that's crazy to think about.
Yeah. We were like, and when I said 3 months, that's like tops, like when you're running numbers and stuff like that.
Right.
And so you just do what you can to keep things going. So we were doing online classes every day. And luckily, I'm so lucky to have like the amazing clients and instructors that I have because they have been so loyal and supportive throughout that whole process. And then I guess middle of May, we decided to kind of slowly start reopening. And we're still taking, I think everybody is taking a lot of precautions right now, but
right.
We're operating at about 50% capacity in studio, and class, we've limited like class times probably by about 50%. I think we're offering like between 2 studios, like 30 classes a week. And before it was over 50. And then you just have to like, we've got marks on the floors and on the bars, so people are spread out and distanced safely, and you have to walk, you have to come and go from the studio with masks on, and we're not providing equipment right now. Everybody's required to bring their own mats, and so it's just a lot different. And you know, a lot of people aren't comfortable getting back into the studio yet.
Right.
So, I mean, I'd be lying if I said that we haven't taken a big hit. Like, we are not where we were back in January. I do feel really lucky that we haven't had to like shut down either of our studios, because I know a lot of small businesses have already had to close down, and it's just so sad and awful, scary, and like, what do you do? And especially scary like in a time for me where we're about to have a kid, and you know, you have to take care of another life, keep them alive. So we'll see. I mean, things are going okay. I'm hoping that we can like push through this and keep both studios going and move forward. But I just don't know. I mean, I feel like it might be another year until things go back to normal.
Right.
Or never. I don't think that anything will ever go back to the way that they were, but business wise.
Yeah. And I think what's really important to acknowledge here is like, even just looking back on the past 6 months and just what you were able to figure out at such a, like on such a dime, if you will. Like, I mean, if someone had kind of like told you back at the end of February, it's like, oh, this is what's going to happen. And like, you know, just almost kind of like shown you like a play-by-play of what things were going to do, you would probably have been like, I mean, I know for me, I would have had like a panic attack right then and right there. And, you know, full disclosure, I had many at the beginning, but it just shows the power of what people are able to handle and what, and just how, like the idea of pivot, right? Like a lot of people have said that in terms of navigating COVID. And my life coach, actually, who I will have on here one day too, she's amazing. She was explaining to me this concept of pivot because I was trying to overthink it. And she was like, think about like a football player who's running down the field. Like they don't like on the, oh my God, I'm going to embarrass myself with my like lack of like field markings, like on the like 40-yard line, they're not thinking like, oh, on the 20-yard line, like I'm going to have to pivot. And they're like coming up with like a strategic plan of what this pivot is going to look like. They're just kind of like in their body and they're in their moment. And then it like happens in the present moment of what step you need to take in order to find a solution or come out the other side. So I think that what you were able to do and how you're able to navigate it is so great. And also of like now having that online arm of your business, like you probably would have never done that if it wasn't for, so A, just wanted to acknowledge you, and B, just kind of like, I think that there was something that came out of this that you probably wouldn't have accomplished if it wasn't for it, you know?
Yeah, I totally agree. And it's really cool because we do now have like clients that are online only that are not in Charleston. We've got people from Richmond and that come from Lynchburg and stuff that are doing classes. So yeah, there's with so much bad, you can kind of find that silver lining in places, and just hope that we continue to flourish as we make it through all of this.
Yeah, and that was going to be, you know, one of my final questions is like, what's next for Bar South? Like, what is your ambitions with it? And I guess, you know, with the whole COVID thing, it probably has tweaked things a little bit, and you're just like, I need to get through this. But so like maybe before COVID, like, were you wanting to open more studios? Were you wanting to like expand your brand all across the South? Or like, what was that dream for the studio, and what is it now?
Yeah, we've always said that we would be open to expansion, whether it's just between me and my husband, or partnering with somebody else outside of Charleston. We've had those conversations with people before, um, and we actually were a little, somewhat in the process of working on expanding with somebody else before COVID, and it just wasn't the right time with COVID, and then with me being pregnant and all of that.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's always been something that we've been open to. But right now I'm focusing on like what we have here, my 2 studios here. One cool thing that we just introduced 2 weeks ago is a yoga program. So so while we're predominantly barre, I feel like yoga really complements barre, and a lot of our clients take yoga as well. So it's like, why not offer yoga and barre under one roof and one membership, and try to find that like good change, and expand. It's just a good time to like try to expand on the business. So, it's only been a couple of weeks, but it's going well and people seem to really enjoy it. And so that's been like our biggest change. Prior to COVID, I was definitely planning on training and hiring more instructors, so that I could kind of take a step back once this baby comes along, and I don't have to teach 2 classes a day, and can put a little more focus on her. But we stepped back from training and hiring. It doesn't make sense right now. But I've got 4 new local yoga instructors that were able to jump in, and they're amazing and teach beautifully. And they're all just so different and bring something new to the studio. So I'm excited about that change with the business, and hope that it sticks and just continues to grow. Well,
I'm sure it's been around for thousands of years.
I
would imagine that it would
yoga is never going away.
Amazing. I mean, your studios are so beautiful. I would love to do yoga in them, and I would one day you'll see, I'm going to get down there and I'm going to teach a guest class.
I would love it.
Yeah. Okay, so my last question that I ask everybody, because I have a fascination with morning routines, is to ask what your morning routine is.
Okay, so this is actually weird. I think that you knew this about me. I've never been a coffee person. Like, caffeine, I like it. I like the taste.
I'm amazed by you people. I want to study you.
The caffeine, just really gives me the jitters, and like my heart races.
Yeah.
Until I got pregnant, which you're not really supposed to be drinking a lot of caffeine while pregnant.
No, but I think studies show that 1 cup a day is totally fine.
I think you can have like 200 milligrams or something these days. Yeah. So I haven't been worried about it, but coffee has been my pregnancy craving.
Oh, that is so funny.
And I don't get the jitters. So I don't know if there's something with like the chemical change and hormones and stuff. I have no idea, but I've been fine. And again, I'm not drinking a lot of it, but like I've got an iced coffee right here.
Oh my God, that is so funny.
So now my morning routine is I get up, usually around, I probably wake up around like 6:45 or 7, and stay in bed until like 7:30 or 7:45.
That's nice.
And most days I am teaching a 9:30 class, so I don't have a whole lot of time prior to that. But when I do get up, I come downstairs. I now have coffee in the morning, and I like to sit in front of the Today Show.
Oh, that's so fun. I used to do that in college. I have not done that.
Of course. I'm still a college girl at heart.
Very true. If I had like, if I don't have like an open floor plan like you, so if like I had like a TV in like my kitchen or something, I would, my mom always like had on the Today Show in the background. Like there's something about that that's very comforting to me. And I love the Today Show, but I guess it's not on the forefront of my mind. But no, that sounds lovely. And then you go and teach and you start your day.
Yeah. Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Brett, this has been such a fun conversation. So many great nuggets of inspiration in there, especially for anyone who is aspiring to be a badass business owner like yourself. So, so excited about your next chapter and can't wait to meet little Ava one day.
I can't wait either.
So thank you so much for coming on here. And before we hop off, tell people where they can find you.
Yeah. So my studio in Mount Pleasant is, well, I don't know if you've got like followers in Charleston, but we're in Mount Pleasant at the Boulevard Apartments, which is on Coleman Boulevard. And then we've got our downtown studio right near the River Dogs baseball stadium at this new building called the Caroline. And like I said before, we're doing online classes. So even like your followers that are not in Charleston, they can pop in and do like a live stream class, or we've got all of our classes recorded on our website to take on demand. And so first class is free. So
that's awesome.
Get a free
and
class.
That's just barsouth.com, right?
Yep, barsouth.com.
Okay, perfect. And Bar South on Instagram.
Right? Bar.south.
Bar.south, that's right. Okay, well, everyone go check out her classes because she is an amazing instructor. And once you take your first class, you'll never look back.
Yay.
All right, well, thank you. And I'll talk to you soon. We'll catch up more a little later, and especially before you have your little bundle. But thanks for having this conversation, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Miss you.
Miss you. Bye.
Bye.